All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 21st of August, 2024. Flyers Daily, as always, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Now, in this episode, we do not have a Flyers development camp conversation or an exit day interview or Bill Meltzer. We're going to kind of just tackle a few topics that are going around on social media. We're going to revisit our top question marks from just before John Tortorella's first season as a Flyer. And we're going to look at the differences between year one of John Tortorella and the roster year three. So some interesting stuff that we'll get into in this episode. Obviously, first and foremost, we do have some news in Flyerland as the Flyers have sought to terminate the contract of Ryan Johansen to get it off the books. And they can move forward without Ryan Johansen, the $4 million cap hit that they owe. Remember, Colorado retained half of that when he was traded to Philadelphia in the Sean Walker deal. The Flyers statement reads as follows, quote, "The Philadelphia Flyers have placed forward Ryan Johansen on unconditional waivers for the purpose of terminating his contract due to a material breach. The Flyers will have no further comment at this time." Ryan Johansen's agent checked in as well. And, you know, it's a little bit of, okay, he said, she said, what's going on? Elliot Friedman reported that if the Flyers need to pursue this legally and push it further, they're prepared to do so. I don't know the exact reason for the material breach, but it is curious to me that Ryan Johansen played in 63 games for the Colorado Avalanche, and then all of a sudden when he got to Philadelphia, deemed he was not healthy enough to play and not healthy enough, presumably, to report for training camp. So there's your material breach in some shape or form. How that manifests itself remains to be seen. I'm no legal expert, and as my good friend and oftentimes radio guest from The Athletic and Villanova University, he teaches sports law there, formerly of the Green Bay Packers. Andrew Brandt once said, there will be lawyers, and there will be lawyers here. But we'll see where this goes. Flyers can't use that cap space upon termination of the contract and once Ryan Johansen clears waivers until the issue is completely resolved. But it could open up $4 million in cap space for the Flyers. What do they do with it? That remains to be seen. Why is this happening now? Great question. All of which I don't know the answer to at this point. I was a little bit surprised to see this. I just assumed the Flyers were going to eat the last year, the $4 million. He was going to be a player that would be eligible for LTIR, and they would have moved on. But this situation has yet to fully play itself out. We'll see where it goes. I can assure this I'm pretty certain of. This isn't like, hey, we don't want to pay the $4 million for a player that's not playing for us. I don't think that's the issue. It's not a financial issue. It's an issue of, you know, what's going on, and was there a breach here? And you can't let those kind of things slide. You know, when he was traded, was it, you know, kind of disclosed that he wouldn't be able to play the remainder of the season? I believe the plan was for him to play the remainder of the season with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Is that where all of a sudden I can't play comes from? And I understand that. Like a lot of players, hey, he's been in the NHL his entire career, doesn't want to go down and ride the bus. I get it. But something is amiss here. And in due time, we'll find some details, maybe not all, but we'll find a resolution to this situation between the Flyers and Ryan Johansen. Obviously, the Kolosov thing is still percolating as well. There's so much that's going on here. And the fact that Danny Briere on the Nasty Knuckles podcast said that they haven't heard officially from him or his agent or kind of gotten a straight answer. I'm not expecting Kolosov to show up at this point. There's just too much smoke here. Look, the Flyers have his rights. If he wants to play hockey, he's got to play here, or he's going to defy the agreement. And I don't like it. I don't like when this kind of thing happens for the team, for the player, that the player is not giving a straight answer. I mean, this is a lot of noise that I don't think the Flyers need right now. There's a little too much noise right now for my liking. Look, I'm a guy that grew up as a media member, as a talk show host, doing sports radio. Noise was conversation. Noise created conversation and created compelling conversation. But I don't think any of us want this much noise. So I'd like to see a resolution to this. Now, one of the things that I've seen quite a bit of, in light of the Kolosov noise, is the fact that you look at a guy like Yaroslav Askarov that's available now. He was drafted by the Nashville Predators, 11th overall. I mean, this is a high draft pick in the 2020 NHL draft. I was surprised because they'd moved on from Pekka Rinne. They moved to UC Saros. But now 4 years later, they're committing to Saros long term and not going with the guy. Although it's a different GM. David Poyle's not there anymore. It's now Barry Trotz. But still, after 4 years, they decided to extend the contract of UC Saros and not go with the younger, much cheaper goaltender. To me, that's a telling point about this entire conversation when it comes to Yaroslav Askarov. Most teams don't like to pay the goaltender a lot of money. They just extended Saros to a big bucket of cash. They have a known commodity there. And obviously, Askarov hasn't blown their doors off enough to go, okay, we'll move on from Saros and not pay him, and we'll pay Askarov and get high-level goaltending for much less money. Now everybody says the Flyers should be in on Askarov. Well, I consider that element of what I just said. The organization that drafted him, invested him at 11th overall, is not going with him when they have a free agent goaltender who's going to get paid a ton of money in a salary cap league. So I got to think about, why is that? That's the second level. Now, is he a super high-end prospect goaltender? Yeah. Has he been great in the AHL? No. I mean, he's at 9/11 6%. He hasn't lit the world on fire. And maybe that's the reason why Nashville has some cold feet. Maybe they know his work habits. I don't know. I'm not close enough to that situation. But this is a guy that was thought of high enough in NHL circles to be taken 11th overall. We don't see a lot of goalies taken in the first round. Certainly not the top half of the first round and 11th overall. I mean, we've seen guys like Carey Price go high, or Marc-Andre Fleury, and we've seen other guys over the years, Rick DiPietro, go really high. But it's generally a position that teams don't go spend a high draft pick on because there's so much uncertainty about the development of the position. And if they can get good goaltending at a lower price, they tend to want to do that. So it's shocking. As far as the Flyers being interested, I kick the tires on everybody. But how would that work? You'd have to trade one of the goaltenders you have in the package, which would become the Nashville backup to Saros. If you want to look for an obvious, I'll just make an obvious connection here. A guy in Saros, a Swede for an Ersson, together. That would obviously work. But you look at the situation with Fedotov. I don't think Ersson or Fedotov are a guarantee of anything. It's why if one of the reasons I brought this up with Bill, that if Kolosov doesn't want to come here because he feels blocked by Ersson and Fedotov, it's incumbent upon his agent to tell him, look, both of those guys have 2-year deals, and neither are a guarantee. It's a big question mark. So there may be, if you go in there, have a really good season and a half or season or two with the Phantoms, that could be your job, the starter in Philadelphia. But it's not going to just be handed to you. So, look, I'm interested in Askarov. I'm not going to go crazy, though. The asking price is going to be really high because they invested an 11th overall pick in him. And he was obviously a very high pedigree goaltender in that draft. And guys of that pedigree at that age aren't thought of like that young very often. So I kick the tires for sure and look at the situation, but I'm not looking to go crazy on this one with Askarov. As far as they have to get him, blah, blah, blah. No, they don't have to. All right, one more thing. Let's talk about Patrik Laine. Because Patrik Laine was traded from the Columbus Blue Jackets to the Montreal Canadiens. I know some media members, and I quote tweeted Sam Carchidis' tweet saying, Sam said he would have been a perfect fit here in Philadelphia. I totally disagree. I don't think Patrick Laine would have been a perfect fit in Philadelphia. Somebody said he wouldn't be a fit with John Tortorella, and Sam replied, well, long after Tortorella's gone, he'll be pouring in 40-goal seasons. Well, in 7 seasons in the NHL, Patrick Laine's got exactly one 40-goal season. And it came early in his career. It was year 2. He had 36, I think, in his first year, 40 in his second year. And he's a player that has been declining. He was just in the players' assistance program, and I'm not going to hold that against him. Any player that seeks help for anything that he's dealing with. But his career's trended in the wrong direction. He's now on his 3rd team. He's a 2nd overall pick. And you have to ask yourself, again, why was a 2nd overall pick moved twice already that can put the puck in the net like he can? I think he's a net negative player. When he's not scoring, he's not interested. When the puck's on his side of the red line, on the defensive side of the red line, he's not interested. So, to me, he doesn't make any sense here. If you're in a different situation, especially for the money he's getting in the contract situation, for the money he's getting, I'm not interested. Flyers didn't have the money anyway. But I don't think he was a player that's a fit here right now. Torts coached him in Columbus. And he leaves a lot to be... Look, he is a spectacular shooter. I think, for my money, he's the 2nd best shooter in the NHL right now. 2nd best release. The only guy with a better release is Austin Matthews. He's right there. And, yeah, the Flyers could use scoring, but you just don't get it often enough. He's very streaky, scores in bunches. And, again, he's had one 40-goal season in 7 years. And somebody else pointed out to me, they said, well, how many 40-goal seasons does Travis Konechny have? And he just got paid. I said, okay, fair point. He got none, first of all. But Konechny brings a lot more to the table than just the goal-scoring department. And, first of all, Konechny works his bag off every shift. Every shift. You don't see that with Laine. Even though Konechny's not a great defender, he's a willing defender. He's a penalty killer. And Konechny's last 3 years have been arcing this way, up. Patrick Laine's last 3 years have been arcing down. So you can't just look at a player and look at his 7 years and what he's done and encapsulate it all. It's like when you face a team in late February in a hockey season and they have this really great record, but they're playing bad of late. Or you face a team in December that has been absolutely dreadful to that point in the season, but have played really well in their last 5. You can look at where they are in a smaller time window. You can't take it all and just judge on that. So Patrick Laine, no interest for me. I know a lot of people would have coveted the player. I would not have, but that's just me. All right, over the last 2 Mondays, we did our top 10 question marks of the 24-25 season. Started off with the goaltending tandem of Sam Ersson and Ivan Fedotov. We took a look at Matvei Michkov, what kind of effect he'll have on the Flyers. Morgan Frost at the crossroads. Sean Couturier, a new season. Power play last year not being so powerful. We looked at the defense core of Cam York, Sanheim, Drysdale, Sealer, Zamula, Ristolainen, maybe Emil Andre, the Brad Shaw impact on all that. We talked about team unity and belief as a question. Torts as the head coach and his messaging. We talked about the next step of development when it comes to Farabee, Forster, Tippett, and Cates, and Frost. And then we looked at the marker in the rebuild. Well, as I was going through the studio today, I found a couple things. First of all, I found these two things as I was doing some cleaning up. We'll get to the next thing I found. First, I found this. For those on YouTube, you can see it's a Montreal goalie stick. You don't see the Montreal brand anymore. And I'm like, where the heck did I get that? And I look out and I find it, and it's I don't know where it says it. Oh, there it is. It says right there, if you can see that on our YouTube feed, Niittymaki. This is a Game Use Antero Niittymaki Montreal goalie twig. I also found this one from my old friend who gave this to me, a former Flyer goaltender. That number 34, that is Alex Lyon. I got his twig here as well, and you can see it's got the name Alex Lyon, of course, now with the Detroit Red Wings. So I found a cool couple of goalie twigs. Interesting tidbit about these two sticks. When you look at these two sticks, and I'll have to ask Lyon about this, Alex, when you put them down, look how much longer the Niittymaki stick is than the Alex Lyon stick. Alex cut his shaft on his stick a little bit shorter. But anyway, what I also found was this. And I know you won't be able to read that, or for people listening won't be able to see it. But I found this piece of paper that I wrote on the 10th of September 2022 at 7:58 p.m., an email I sent to myself. And it was the top 20 questions of the Philadelphia Flyers for the 22-23 season. And I thought it'd be fun to just look back at these 20 questions 2 years now after the fact. Now, this is heading into John Tortorella's first year as the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. Chuck Fletcher's the general manager. And this is the first season start without Claude Giroux. The first one was, who fills the leadership void with Giroux no longer here? I think we've seen that kind of take place with Travis Konechny, Scott Lawton, obviously, with guys like Travis Sanheim. That void has been filled. Number two, which we can finally answer. Who eventually wears the C for this team? Because at this time, John Tortorella said he's not naming a captain in year one. Said that in year two, named one in year two. But that answer is obviously Sean Couturier. Number three on this list was, who fills the role on the ice as the team's best player and the player most feared by the opposition? That's been Travis Konechny over those 2 seasons under John Tortorella. Number four, which player between Konechny and Provorov is more likely to thrive for Torts to see them as a long-term solution player? Well, we know the answer to that. It's Travis Konechny, who's just extended 8 years beyond this one. Provorov is no longer here and only played 1 year under John Tortorella. Interesting question. Number five, how will Provorov and DeAngelo mesh both on and off the ice? They didn't last long together. They didn't play very much together. But that was, heading into that training camp, that was the thought. Number six was, what a question this is. Will the power play under new coaching but without Giroux be an area of significant improvement? No. That's the answer. Number seven, as currently constructed for the most part, will this team be much improved defensively? And will they defend significantly less? Now, they didn't defend significantly less than they did the year prior under basically Alain Vigneault and Mike Yeo, but they were improved defensively. So we did get that answer. Number eight was, Wade Allison and Tanner Laczynski remain, quote, can they remain, rather, available without injury to be able to help this team? The answer was not really, and neither are here any longer. Number nine, who wins the backup goalie spot? Troy Grosnick or Felix Sandstrom? Remember, Carter Hart's the starter at that time. And is that an area that could prevent them from a decent improvement in the standings? Well, what name is not there is Sam Ersson, who ended up being the guy as the backup after Sandstrom kind of failed at it a few times, and then they brought in Ersson, and he filled in that role nicely. Troy Grosnick ended up getting hurt and barely playing for the Flyers and obviously the Phantoms. Number 10, I said, which of these three players will show significant improvement and development this season at the NHL level? Frost, York, or Tippett? Now, I don't know about that first year, but overall, I mean, York and Tippett are obvious. And Frost, I think, has shown improvement, but he was scratched a bunch last year. So that's still a question when it comes to him in particular. Number 11, the Flyers' most important player is Sean Couturier. Post-surgery, can the Flyers bank on 25-plus goals and about 70 points? That wasn't the case last year. Can he do that this year? That's not my expectation. I will just say that. Number 12. Remember, this is heading into the 22-23 season. Sounds like Ryan Ellis will not be ready to start the season. Do we see him at all this season? The answer, obviously, is no. And we'll never see him again. What do you play, 4 or 6 games as a Flyer? Number 13, JVR will begin the season as a Flyer, but does he finish the season as a Flyer? I know at the time I would have thought, no way, he finished the season as a Flyer, but he couldn't move him. Chuck Fletcher couldn't move him. That's part of the reason why he got let go. It's because he couldn't move JVR at the deadline. Number 14, at Christmas, what will we be saying about Torts? Well, what are we saying now about Torts? To me, I'd love to get responses from people on that. Number 15 was Kevin Hayes turned 30 on May 8th. He scored north of 20 goals only twice in his 8 years in the NHL. What's a reasonable stat line for him, assuming health? Now, he had a really good first year under Torts, or the year here under Torts, but he got moved in the offseason. So while it was good and it was a career high for him, it didn't keep him here. Number 16, which players will Torts take an immediate liking to? And the ones I listed were Lawton, Couturier, Atkinson, Noah Cates, possibly Provorov. Well, we know he loved Noah Cates, especially in year one. He loved Scott Lawton. Couturier, he liked him this year in the beginning, and then he healthy scratched him. So Atkinson was a healthy scratch a bunch, but Cam, look, missed an entire year as well. And Provorov's no longer here, so there's your answer. And I had one more. Name one player that Torts will either bench or make a healthy scratch to get them to play his way. And the two players I listed were Konechny and Frost. Both were benched. Frost was healthy scratched. Konechny's never been healthy scratched under John Tortorella and won't be. But the captain was healthy scratched. Travis Sanheim was healthy scratched. We've seen a lot of players healthy scratched that maybe we didn't think. So there's 17 of those top 20 questions. And I went back and I looked. From the team that played the 2022-23 season and the team that will be taking the ice for the Flyers this year, of the 38 total players that dressed or played for the Flyers in that 22-23 season, 17 of 38 are gone. Kevin Hayes, no longer here. Tony DeAngelo, no longer here. James Van Riemsdyk, Ivan Provorov, Wade Allison, no longer here. Zach McEwen, no longer here. Sedlak, Patrick Brown, Brendan Lemieux, Tanner Lazinski, all no longer here. Kiefer Bellows, Justin Braun, Jackson Cates, no longer here. Elliot Denoye didn't play any games for the Flyers last year. Hayden Hodgson, no longer here. Felix Sandstrom, Max Willman, Carter Hart, all no longer here. Pretty interesting. All right, that is today's episode. We will have a brand new one for you coming up on Friday. Join us then for a brand new Flyers Daily. Have a great day, everybody.